Hello guys, Helion here, bringing you everything you need to become a pro CSGO player. The first things you need is, well, the technical part really, the money, the resources for you to get a really good PC setup to be able to challenge other players with good PC setups. Because a good PC setup, for example with a 144Hz monitor and 300 FPS in CSGO, is definitely gonna improve on how well you play CS:GO. It's gonna boost your hit registration. Like you're not gonna miss as many shots as you would on a 60 Hz monitor and 60 FPS. Um, and really, everybody that's a pro gamer has a really good PC setup. It's the same concept as runners who have, well, good runner shoes for them to run better. Now the second part is commitment. Commitment is, well, the risky part, but it's the same as everything else. In commitment, you need to stay consistent and committed to your goal, and your goal is to become a pro gamer. So what you need to do is stay committed to the game you've chosen to become a pro gamer, whether that is Counter-Strike Global Offensive or Dota 2 or League of Legends or whatever esports game. All you need to do to get better at it is to consistently play it and trying to learn how to play it better and better, and learn what you're good at in the game and improve on that, as well as improve on your teamwork if it's a team game. Uh, Being committed to your goal is the most important part, really. It's the same concept as becoming a really successful doctor or a really, well, I don't know, fast runner or whatever. You gotta learn all that doctor shit, or in the other case, you gotta run a lot of miles very fast or very long miles. I don't know, whatever you've chosen to do, to actually start getting better at what you're doing and get so good that you become successful in the end. To summarize, the basic things you need to become a pro gamer is a good PC and commitment to actually make make it work. Like you need to be committed to go to make it work, to make it happen. Now, more in depth, how a good PC would benefit. I can show you on this. How a good PC will actually create, like on a FPS and 60 monitor. This is gonna be much harder for you than if you had a 300 FPS monitor and 144 Hz monitor and 300 FPS. You will definitely score a 25 out of 25 shots if you have all that, and if you're not like distracted. That's because on a 144 Hz monitor, the little dots that appear on your screen, you're gonna see them quicker. Like you're gonna see them first than the person who has a 60 Hz monitor. They're gonna appear faster on your screen. That's just because the 144 Hz monitor refreshes your screen at a faster pace than a 60 Hz monitor. So you're gonna have an advantage over that guy just because you spent a little bit of money on a better PC and a better monitor. The 300 FPS, in my opinion, is something that is a complete must on when playing CS:GO. One thing why it's a complete must is because with 300 FPS, the whole movement of your mouse, your crosshair in this situation, it's gonna look 10 times smoother and more fluid than on a 60 Hz monitor and 60 FPS. Now you can't see this in the YouTube video. You don't see how I see things on my monitor. Just that, and that's because YouTube only allows 60 FPS and 60 Hz on videos. And except for this crosshair movement, the whole body movement of your character is going to see more fluid. You're going to be hitting a lot more bunny hops than you would on a 60 Hz monitor and 60 FPS than on a 300 FPS and 144 Hz monitor. The whole movement looks more fluid, more consistent, more full, and that gives you enough info for you to press the keys in the right combination. For bunny hop, you need to be pressing W, A, and D, and the spacebar or whatever button you use to jump, for you to correctly execute the bunny hop. The bunny hop can benefit you in multiple ways. One of them is just moving around the map faster. The other one is like, oh yeah, basically that's the whole part, moving around the map faster. Being more mobile is gonna definitely benefit your team, because that just means faster rotations around the map. Now, that's for the technical part on the individual part of becoming a pro gamer. To become consistent, you need to train your aim in CSGO every day for you to have a consistent aim. You can do it on any map. You can do it on CSGO training aim map, or whichever map suits you the best, really. There's no common denominator about which map you should use to improve your aim. I personally like using this map over any other, just because I've noticed that when I'm training on this map, my flick shots become better, and my reflexes become better. My burst has become better just by training on this map. So your aim needs to be on the fucking point. Like, you can't miss shots. That's like half of CSGO, aiming and shooting down your opponent. The other part is being consistently good and being able to challenge like pro gamers in Counter-Strike, is learning a lot of individual skills that are gonna come in handy in different situations. Like, a lot of you might not know that you can actually jump and shoot with a rifle accuracy. Like right now, I'm not doing anything, and the shots are not really accurate. They're not landing where I'm shooting. But if you jump forward, press the back key, and shoot at that moment, your shots become accurate. So you can just jump over something and shoot somebody. Now, other skills are like, you can do the same with a scout or even an op. Here, I'm gonna show you how even. The op is like 10 times harder than the scout. So the scout is like you just jump, and in the peak of your jump you shoot. It's gonna be a 100% accurate shot. You can even see your sight or crosshair, whatever you call this, becomes less blurry at the peak of your jump. That's when you're supposed to shoot. Now with the op, it's a bit trickier. You need to shoot at the peak of your jump, but also do a movement from the upper right to the place where you want to shoot. So it'll become something like this. Now that's harder. The scout is easier, and the rifle is, well, a lot easier. That's just jumping forward, pressing backwards, and moving down with crosshair while shooting, and your shots become accurate-ish. Not completely accurate as you would if you're crouching. So learning individual skills like that is a very must, because like most pro CSGO players know these things, and they use these things to gain an advantage over their opponent. There's a lot of other shit like long jumping that you can do, which is this. You basically move your crosshair to the left and right while pressing A and D and holding crouch. You actually gain a little bit of momentum in the air, and you jump further than you would jump if you would just do this. Now, footing. It's like essential for every role for you to know how to move around. For the rifle, you need to be mobile. You need to know how to come around a corner and be prepared to shoot a guy. You need to know where you want to like stop making so much noise with your footsteps and actually start walking so your opponent doesn't hear you. You need to like learn the mind game of CSGO. You gotta know what your opponent is thinking, what your opponent is gonna do, and accordingly to that, you gotta choose the right type of movement. If you wanna surprise him, you can just walk next to him without him hearing you, and you can shoot him then. But if you wanna be quick, because you already know he saw you, then you can just straight around and shoot him around the corner. Now, aside from aim, you can also train your grenades. Being able to properly support your teammates with grenades is like around the other half almost of CSGO. It's the tactical part. It's what is gonna benefit your team the most. You being able to carry your team with just grenades is, well, something that's gonna benefit the whole team. That just means you can be at 2 locations at once. Like imagine if you had a flashbang and your teammate is very far away from you, and he calls out that he's getting shot by 2 guys, and you can just throw that flashbang behind him so that his enemies get flashed. And he can easily kill them because they don't see, they're blind, and he just aim for those headshots. So in that way you're benefiting yourself, the team, and your teammate. So you need to know how to use flashbang, grenade smokes and stuff like that, not only to benefit yourself with pop flashes and stuff like that, but also benefit your team and teammates. That's on the individual part. On the team part, you mostly wanna play with the same 4 people every day consistently, and like get this synergy going between you guys. Synergy is basically how in tune and how synchronized you are with your teammates. And this is something you build up over time by playing with the same 4 people you play each day with. At some point, you're gonna notice how you know what your teammate is gonna do before he even calls it out, and that's something that it'll benefit benefit your games a lot. So if you wanna like become a pro gamer in some game that is team based, like most esports games, I don't even think there's a game in esports which isn't team based, but yeah. So if you wanna become a pro gamer in an esport, then you really need a team, and to play with that team every day. For a good team, you need 5 roles. On the T side and on the CT side, you need the IGL. The IGL is the guy who basically calls out what what the whole team is gonna do. Are you gonna rush A? Are you gonna defend A if you're CT? Are you gonna fake a B rush and then go A? Are you gonna rush from the A bomb site to help to become to be an aggressive CT and maybe get some information in the frag? That whole thing is decided by your IGL. He's the tactician and leader of the team, and the in-game leader at least of the team. The second role is an entry fragger, for the T's at least, the T's. The entry fragger is basically the guy who's gonna have, most of the time, he's gonna have the worst score of everyone else. He's gonna be the guy who just rushes almost by himself, maybe with a flashbang to support him from his teammates and something like that. He's gonna rush into a bomb site against maybe 2 or 3 guys who are already aiming at him, and he's gonna try to not only get a frag but also get your team the info on where the counter-terrorists are hiding and where they're shooting from. The other role is support. The support player is the guy who supports the entry fragger. He's the guy who's gonna throw him the flashbang he really needs to take the frag, or the smoke he really needs to hide, or the HE grenade to finish off his opponent. The support is the guy who actually tries to make the entry fragger role work, just because it's probably the hardest and most risky role of them all. The rifler is the guy who just most of the time holds a rifle in his hands and protects either your back or protects your support from being shot, because most of the time your support is going to be carrying a flashbang or a grenade in his hand instead of a rifle, so he's completely like vulnerable to being killed. He can't really put up much of a fight if he's holding a flashbang, and if his entry fragger dies or if something else happens. The rifler is basically the backup. The backup who also becomes a support player for the support after the entry fragger dies. Now for the CTs, oh yeah, and the AWP. The AWPer is also a very is a general role that both CTs and Ts have. It's the guy basically who's also gonna have a really bad score, because you want to your AWPer has to be the guy who basically runs out in the middle of the nothing with almost no cover and tries to take one frag at the very least, and tries to give you info, or even better, he on the CT side or a T side, if you're defending a bomb, he's gonna hold one side so that your other players can hold, like if he holds the right side, your other players can hold the left side, because he's the guy who's gonna shoot once, and that's gonna secure a kill. He's gotta be really accurate and precise with his shots, because it's just one shot, and then he either has to wait for the whole reload animation, or he has to switch to another weapon. Now, the CT roles have the only difference that you still have the support player on small bomb sites, like B sites are usually the small bomb sites on every map. You have the support player who's gonna throw a flashbang or a smoke or a HE grenade the moment when his other teammate sees the terrorists rushing into sight. He's gonna be the guy who basically secures a bit of advantage for your entry fragger type counter-terrorist teammate. He's gonna be the guy who supports the guy who sees them first. who sees them pushing and starts shooting at them, and vice versa, they're gonna start shooting at him. Now, the other role that's different from T's is the anchor. The anchor role in CT side is sort of like what I explained for the off. You basically hold one side, but that's not exactly what it is. The anchor role in CTs is basically the guy who you know is a very quick thinker. He's very quick with his hands. He can switch between grenades and think very fast under pressure, because he's gonna be the last guy who's gonna be holding down a site when the terrorists rush into it. For example, in Inferno, the anchor is gonna play the pit spot, the guy in pit, because the pit spot, the pit in Inferno gives you the most cover over getting shot. So he's gonna be the guy who basically tries to hold down as much as he can for his other teammates to rotate from B side into A. He's gonna be the guy who just literally tries to stop the bomb plant and tries to slow down the T's as much as he can for his teammates to rotate. That's the anchor role. Usually, now the T specific, more like the T specific role is the lurker role. The lurker is gonna be the guy who you leave, for example, around A site when you rush into B. He's gonna be the guy who, after you've taken over or you've pulled some CTs into the B side, he's gonna be the guy who tries to go and try and get a frag or two even from the B side. He's gonna be the guy who tries to well, basically catch somebody off guard. He needs to be very aware all the time at what's happening around the map, where his teammates are positioned. He can do that. He can do all of that by using his radar. And other than that, he also needs to be. He also needs to have a very large knowledge of how things work in the game, how people think in the game, the whole mind game. He needs to be really adaptive at the whole mind game. Like, he needs to be sure that when he actually starts moving, that the CTs have already rotated. He needs to be very perceptive of what the other players in the opposite team are thinking, so that he can quickly react, other than to what's happening in the map, but also to how the players in the opposite team are thinking. He needs to have really good map knowledge, basically. Other than that, other than filling out those roles in the team, you also need to have good synergy between the players. Like, you can't have a team full of people who are not willing to commit as much as an entry fragger commits. Like, the entry fragger basically goes on a suicide mission. He's the first terrorist who gets spotted, and he's the first target for everybody to gun down. So you can't have a team full of entry fraggers, nor a team full of riflers who wait for something to happen, for someone to die and to receive info so he can trade a frag, trade a kill. You need to kind of have 2 to 3, like 2 entry fragger type people and 3 people who wait for the info and the trade frag in a team. Like, Most teams actually have more people who are willing to go in and actually try and clutch things. Like Fnatic, all of their team members are people who are 100% of the time ready to go in and clutch a situation, go in and just try and shoot down 3 opponents at once. All of the Fnatic members are like that. While other teams like Envious, for example, Envious play a lot differently than most teams. They play around their op, they play around Kenny S. They try to make the game perfectly comfortable for Kenny to make those op shots. So basically, what they're doing is when they're CT, they basically try to hold down site as much as they can for Kenny to get there and start doing damage. Or they support Kenny in all sorts of ways, like smokes, grenades, flashbangs, for him to try and make those op shots work. So the reason why you can't have a team full of people who are like Kenny, who waits for info and waits for somebody to help him make a play, is because basically what's gonna happen is you're just gonna rush into a site, and when you get stopped, like for example somebody throws a smoke in front of you, or a CT starts shooting at all of you, you miss him and he goes back into cover. What's gonna happen if all of you are like Kenny is that you're just gonna stop. You're just gonna stop and wait, and the whole push and the whole game is put on hold in that moment, and you give the CTs a chance to rotate from B side to A side, for example, which is just devastating. You just can't really make anything work like that. You can't have a proper push if you only have trade players. Now, in my opinion, the most important thing you need to be sure of that your team has is the resources, as in the technical part, and the commitment in doing things, in making the dream of becoming a pro gamer actually happen. They need to be as committed as you. They can't be half-assed about it while you're training and learning new things. They gotta be training and learning new things with you or individually, so they can benefit their team. And building synergy, that's the other thing. Building synergy between you guys is the other important thing in a team. Synergy, because without it, it's basically like playing solo queue. You just pop up with 4 other people in the map and you try to make things work. That's not really gonna work against pro teams. Pro teams have synergy. They know the people who they're playing with. They know them very well. They maybe even live with them in a house. They know how their teammates think. They know how their teammates do things, and that helps them actually win games and have better teamwork in the end. Building synergy is mostly done with practicing with each other. You can practice on Faceit or matchmaking, or if you want to, you can find other teams who are willing to train against you and with you. You can do all of that to build up synergy. On the most part, that's everything you need to become a pro CSGO player, with the exception that I missed to say that you also need to develop all of team strats. Every team, may it be an Envious or Cloud9 or Fnatic, they have their own strats. they have their own strats which they're comfortable executing because they've executed them tons of times already, and they know how things work, how players react to the certain things they do. And what they do differently is just minor tweaks every time, and they do those minor tweaks only because they actually know the team they're playing against. Like,
did you ever see any of Fred's
in
experiments
CSGO,
yourself?
there's like,
Yes,
let's say,
I actually helped him
4 or
collect samples
5
for
top
his
tier
research
teams.
sometimes.
Let's say Fnatic,
To learn about
Envious,
That's right. We found all sorts of
VP.
things. One time, we went to the forest.
Yeah, let's
found a
stop
small
there.
pool of water
Let's say in
that was
NIP,
full of
yeah.
eggs.
Let's go with NIP.
Eggs? Were there
Now,
chickens in the
those
forest?
4 teams
No, not
have
chicken
been
eggs.
fighting
These
each
were
other for
small
about,
and jelly-like.
I don't know,
Hundreds of them.
years? Lots
Fred
of
told
years,
me that
basically.
they
They
were
already know
frog eggs.
the
He
team
wasn't too
strats of the
surprised,
other
though.
guy.
Guess what happened?
They've already
What happened?
seen a lot of
Well,
demos.
took
They
some eggs
they
back
know
home.
what the other team
One
is going
day,
to do, how they
Fred
play,
woke
what
up
they,
with
how they
bites
push,
all
what
over
they
his
do.
body.
And
Turns
basically
out
what
it
teams
wasn't
do
frog
at
eggs
that
after
point
all.
to make
It
the
was
team
mosquito
strats
eggs.
work is just minor
Poor
tweaks.
Fred.
And by minor
I know.
tweaks, I mean,
He
like,
did
instead
find
of
real frog
throwing
eggs
a
eventually.
Molotov at
He told me
like,
that they were very, very special.
Ninja
know
in
what happened to
Inferno
them.
at B site, then you throw it at coils because you know that a player from Envious stays there and not a ninja. Those minor tweaks are what they do to their basic team strats to actually get an upper hand over their opponents. When you have a team strat
These blue
that you've
lights.
worked on and
Did Fred
you've
put them
practiced
here?
as a team on,
Or was somebody
you're gonna
else
get really
here as
comfortable
well?
at doing it. And when you do that, it's gonna be really easy to make a variation of that strat, which will help you to, which has like minor tweaks in it, and which will help you to get the upper hand over your opponent. But that's very end game, because when you get to the point where you know your opponents, then you've already become a pro gamer basically. Because you're playing against top tier teams that are as committed and as consistent as you are. They're training and learning new strats every day. Now, on the question whether every new player can become a pro gamer, every beginner, I would
Hello.
say yes.
Who are you?
If
You're not from here.
he's
Wow.
committed enough.
You look just like Fred.
If he's willing
but
to put
smaller,
all those
and with less hair on
hours
your
in
face.
to just catch up.
She
'Cause
knew
if you're
Fred.
very, very new to
I told her that he was my
first-person
uncle.
shooters, you've
that
been
I was
playing
looking
like
for
only
him.
RPGs and
What's
MOBAs,
an uncle?
and you suddenly want to become a
I said
pro
that he was.
CSGO player or a
That I had
pro
known him
Call of Duty
all my
player,
life.
you're gonna have a very hard time
Really? Me too.
learning
I'll
how
help
to
you find him.
shoot, learning
I'm
all the game's
Madeline.
mechanics.
The others call me
stuff like
Mad
that.
Maddie sometimes.
I even remember
I don't know why, really.
Cloud9
But you
being
can call me
asked in one of
Maddie.
their interviews the same
You've never
question.
been to the village,
They
right?
basically said the same
Let's
thing.
meet
that
over there in the square.
yes,
I'll show you around.
everybody has a
I bet you
shot,
can get there easily with your suit
but
thing.
you gotta
So, I'll see you
stick
there.
to what you're good at.
I
Like if you're
couldn't
good
believe
at
it.
MOBAs, then
An
you should commit
underground
to playing
village
MOBAs.
inhabited
If
by
you're good at
frog
first-person
people,
shooters, then you should
or
commit
more
to
like
first-person shooters.
salamanders.
Now, some people
Either
are
way,
actually good at
they
equally
walk
good
like
at
humans,
both, and,
they
well,
talk
and
like
that's only
humans.
because they've practiced
that
both
possible?
an equal amount of time or equivalent at the very least. Now, whether a full-time beginner, like a person who has never like played the PC game ever before in his life, can suddenly become a pro gamer, I'm not that sure about that, because, well, it's a very vast field that you need to learn and master, and it's not only specific game mechanics, but it's also well, how comfortable you feel using a mouse and a keyboard. I'm not saying that if you weren't born with a mouse and a keyboard in your hand, you can't become a pro gamer. But what I'm saying is that if you don't feel comfortable uh, and you don't enjoy yourself while doing what pro gamers do, which is play games, then
Hi.
becoming a pro
Welcome to my
gamer might
village.
just not
This
be
is the town
for
square,
you. You
and
might
that
want
over
to
there
like
is Fred's
focus on what
tent.
you've been doing this whole
I
time.
haven't
Like,
seen
if
him in
you
a few days,
if you've
though.
been
Maybe our elder Samuel knows where he is.
studying a lot
He
in
knows a
school
lot of
for
stuff.
some specific
Mostly
job,
boring stuff, if
you
you
should
ask
just
me. But it's
continue
worth
on
a
doing
try.
that instead of
Before asking him, though, you should
completely
check out the village. It's not so bad, unless
starting
you have to stay for
fresh
too
and
long.
on a new field.
When you're done,
So in the
go
end,
to the island
yes,
with
I
the
think
windmill,
everybody can
and you'll
become a
see
pro
Samuel's
gamer
coat
as
right
long
there.
as they've
I'll go on ahead and tell him
spent
that
an
you're
equal
coming.
amount of time as
It's
the
not
people
much
who
for
have
some
actually
branches.
become successful and have careers in this field.
I thanked Madeline and agreed
So
to
if
meet
you
her
have the
later.
resources, time,
It was strange.
people to
How could I talk to someone who was not
try
even
to
human
become a pro
and still
gamer,
feel like
then
it
you
was
should most
perfectly
definitely
normal?
try it, especially if you want it and especially if you need it. Like the same way you need to eat, the same way you need to breathe, then you should definitely give it a try to becoming pro. Because if you have that much of motivation, that much commitment, then you've basically walked half the way. Half the way of becoming a pro gamer is just having that mentality of staying committed to training and playing a video game just to get good at the video game, just to have a chance at winning cash money and prestige, of course, of being a pro gamer. So in the end, yes, go for it. If you've always played games, always liked doing that, and you don't feel it like a job, you don't think it's very tiring work, then you should definitely go into that direction. But if you've been studying something else your whole life, you haven't even touched the mouse, or you've played very little games, then you should probably reconsider committing into becoming a pro gamer. You should probably continue doing whatever you've been doing, whether that is selling drugs or becoming a doctor.